What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Niners News here on 49ers Hive. My name is Zach Hernandez. I'm joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn. Matt, how you doing today?
It's good to be back at it, Zach. I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good, yeah. As Matt said, guys, we took a little break, but we're back at it. And today we're going to be talking about the 49ers' long-term plans for John Lynch, if there even are any. Matt, we saw recently Kyle Shanahan get that extension. However, there's no news seems to be looming about John Lynch and his contract situation. What do you make of that?
I think there's a lot of things at play. First of all, again, they're in this is year 4 of their original 6-year deal. So technically speaking, there's 3 years to go. So year 4, year 5, year 6. It's smart to lock up Shanahan just because of his reputation around the league as one of the brightest head coaches in the NFL. Lynch is a little bit more of a mystery. We don't know exactly what his contributions are. We see him out front, and he's definitely the guy that they trot out there because he's personable. He's a straight shooter. He's someone that you want to put out there as the face of your franchise in front of the media. But is someone like Adam Peters doing the work? You know, we don't know who's actually making the picks. It's Kyle Shanahan making the picks. We've heard that he's lobbied for guys before. So in that regard, it remains to be seen what they want to do with Lynch and how Lynch plays into their plans in the future. I'm not saying that he doesn't do anything as a GM. I would never assume that, but there's not enough information because, again, since the Lynch and Shanahan regime started, the organization has been very buttoned up. There hasn't been a lot of leaks, and we don't know what goes on with the inner workings. But we do know that Peters is one of the bright minds and up-and-comers, and he's the assistant GM. He's one of the best personnel guys in the NFL, and we could see that throughout who they're signing, how they've constructed this team, how they arrived a year early, according to most people, and that they have one of the deepest and most talented young rosters in the NFL. So that being said, it doesn't mean that Lynch is necessarily going to be on his way out. I just think that they have the luxury of time and taking their time to decide what the direction of the franchise is going to be.
I think the biggest thing you touched on there is Adam Peters. They have that luxury of having him kind of in the back seat, getting groomed by John Lynch, learning the ways, learning the ropes. And, we don't really know, like you said, how much input he has. He may be doing equal amounts as, scouting work and draft work as John Lynch, and it's all kind of behind the scenes. So we're not quite sure. I don't know really what to make of it. I don't think it's that big of a deal that the 49ers haven't announced his extension. I know right after this happened, I was talking about it, I think on the podcast, and I was saying, hey, look for John Lynch to be extended pretty soon afterwards. And then it kind of clicked, and I'm like, well, they don't really need to. Like just like you said, there's no pressure on them to do this right now. It's much harder to find a head coach that, will run your franchise and get you to a Super Bowl in a couple of years than it is to find a competent GM. And I know how hard GMs are to come by, but the 49ers have a nice, kind of succession plan. If it doesn't work out with John Lynch, they're able to turn to guys like Adam Peters, and they feel comfortable with him, obviously. Now, Matt, you don't think that this means that there's any signs of, any sort of animosity growing between Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, because the whole reason when they were hired was Jed York wanted to make sure they got along. He did not want another Harbaugh and Trent Baalke situation.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any animosity. The thing that I really think it boils down to is Adam Peters. And I think that, it's you want to keep him on the hook as long as you can. If you think that he's the next guy, you don't want to alienate him 3 years out by extending the current GM. Peters could be under the assumption that he's going to take over. And then maybe you move Lynch up to a position like executive vice president of football operations, similar to what John Elway is in Denver, so that he can continue to be that outward-facing person that goes to the media for the franchise, kind of takes some of the pressure off of Jed York so that York can work behind the scenes like he has been doing recently, much to his credit and much to the betterment of the team, that York stays behind the scenes. You trot Lynch out there, who the media loves, who everybody thinks is a straight shooter. Peters gets promoted to GM. He gets to run the personnel side of things and work with Kyle. And what you're really doing with the Kyle extension is you're rewarding him for a great job. His first 2 seasons were very difficult. Win-loss record doesn't look that good. But when you think about what he had to work with year 1 There wasn't a lot of talent. Year 2, when you're thinking, oh, when we traded for Jimmy G, we won 5 games, boom, Jimmy G goes down with a knee injury, and that season is a disaster. So when the key pieces are somewhat healthy, you see what happens. They go to a Super Bowl, and he's being rewarded for that. It's kind of just the attaboy, because it has been a rough couple of seasons, especially at the beginning of his tenure. Peters, you don't want to alienate. He's going to be a hot name. People are going to look to, anytime you go to the Super Bowl, people are going to look to poach your staff. The 49ers are lucky that they've kept the staff intact. That might not be the case. Saleh's probably going to be gone after this year. If you think that, the defense continues to trend upward, he's a hot button name for, head coach. And then you have Peters to worry about. If people see that the personnel side is going really well, they might look to poach him. And I think what the 49ers are doing is hedging their bet just in case, because they don't want to lose somebody like Peters if he's actually the guy that they're looking to replace John Lynch with, so that they can bump him up to a position that isn't so dependent upon him being this fantastical GM, because he was coming from the broadcast booth without any experience. So, there are a lot of things at play, but I do not think there's any animosity.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. I just don't see it. I think they work really well together. And I mean, it's hard to not be happy with your coworker, colleague, whatever you would call them, when you're having success. And they finally found some success this season. And I think this franchise is on an upward trajectory, or at least, they went to the Super Bowl last year. So at the very least, keeping it steady for the next couple of years. I think they're pretty pleased with what they've built here, and they're going to try and do everything they can to keep it together. What I want to touch on there, what you said about John Lynch possibly being moved up to vice president, or president of football operations, whatever the title is exactly, like John Elway. I think that is likely what we end up see happening here within the next couple of years. I totally agree with you that they're scared of losing Adam Peters, and I never thought about it the way you worded it there, that perhaps they don't want to feel like, if they extend John Lynch, then maybe Peters is going to say, I'm never getting this job, I'm out of here. So that's a pretty good scenario and way to approach it, to whereas they kind of keep both sides at ease. They keep everybody pleased. John Lynch gets his extension and he's not upset and not feeling slighted because Kyle got one. And Adam Peters still thinks this team wants me here, and I'm part of this franchise in a big way. So I think that's likely what we end up seeing happening. Now, do you think there's going to be a major change in how this team kind of operates? I know John Lynch has kind of not been afraid to pull the trigger or, make the splashy move, whatever he feels needs to be done to make this team succeed. If they were to make that switch to Adam Peters, do you think there's any change in that philosophy?
I don't think so. When you groom a guy, they kind of learn habits from the person they're being groomed by. And the thing about moving Lynch up to executive vice president is he can still have input into the football decisions. Really what you're doing is you're creating flexibility to keep a guy that that is talented enough to be a GM and that you would want to eventually be a GM for you. So I think what we're seeing now is, I think Peters already has a lot of input. I think Peters can go into Lynch's office and go, you know what? I really like this guy. I'm going to go to bat for this guy. I think we need to pick him up or draft him or do whatever we need to do, pull the trade, whatever you got to do. And Lynch is going to already be receptive to that. People who have the reputation of Adam Peters and somebody who's as honest and open-minded as John Lynch, they're always going to mesh well together. They may not always be in lockstep as far as, maybe Peters brings him a guy and Lynch just doesn't see it. And even after listening to him, he just, maybe that's not the right move. There are going to be those situations. But for the most part, you would hope that a guy that you groomed would grow up or at least come up knowing that, hey, this is the guy that brought me up. We've developed a rapport. I know how he thinks. He knows how I think. I can go to him with this stuff and we can work in tandem to make this the best football team that we can. And the key is flexibility, because just like you want your team to be cap flexible, position flexible, being able to, do different formations, so scheme flexible, you want your front office to be flexible in maintaining its status as, a functional and well-oiled machine.
That makes sense. My last question for you here, Matt. We've talked about kind of Adam Peters and how he feels and, how Kyle Shanahan feels. But what about John Lynch? Do you think that he is feeling kind of, a certain type of way or slighted against that? He's seen Kyle Shanahan get this extension, getting that attaboy pat on the back, like you just said. And as far as we know, there's no contract extension talks going on. So we'll take it at that. But do you think he feels kind of like, where's my bone, so to speak?
I don't think so, because I think he was part of all of this. There's no way that Kyle got that extension without John Lynch knowing about it. And from everything that we see of John Lynch, I doubt the guy's had a bad day in his life. He always seems to be in a good mood. He's very complimentary of other people, and he seems genuinely happy for other people's success. He's done nothing but rave about how great a head coach Kyle Shanahan is, and after the job that he just did, I don't see why he would have anything but good feelings towards Kyle for getting that done. He's also not the type of guy that I think feels sorry for himself. He still has security with a 3-year deal. He's making good money. And who knows what the long-term plan is, but I think that he's a take it one day at a time, cherish every moment sort of guy. And I don't think he's going to throw himself a pity party like that. So no, I don't think he feels slighted at all.
All right, guys, we'll end it on that. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below, and make sure you follow us on Twitter. Our handles are below on the screen. Go and check us out. We tweet a lot about the 49ers. You want to miss it. And like I said, subscribe to this channel. We bring a lot of 49ers content. And make sure you
go ahead and hit the bell for all your notifications. We're back. It's going to be a little rough getting back into it. Obviously, we're kind of tripping on each other a little bit. It's been a while, guys. Give us a break, but we're always bringing you the hot 49ers content.
That's right, guys. Thanks.